Hi, everyone, and welcome to Wind Down Wednesday with Emily. Cheers. Got some water here today. Well, I want to say that we have some questions in advance that I will be addressing, but we'll address them after a few important updates that I have for everyone. We've been super busy in the office with two recent events. We had the back to school event, which was a huge success, and we have this every year. This was um, our third year, I believe. And we did it differently this time because of the pandemic. We had to make sure it was safe. So we did a drive-through. We did one in Bithlo, and then we went over to Goldenrod and did one there. And I just want to thank everyone who donated the backpacks because we wouldn't have been able to do this with all of the donations that we received. So thank you so much for that. And also thank you to the volunteers who helped put it together as well. So we do have some backpacks left, and we're going to use those for a mid-year event, and we may be asking for more donations at that time as well. And we had another event today, which is why I'm so dehydrated. Is we had an event giving out masks. This was our second mask giveaway, and we gave over 200 cloth masks away and 1,000 disposable masks. It was less than what we did last time. It was during the day and during a weekday, so we are going to try to do this again. And I wanted to give a huge thank you to Million Mask Challenge to donate those cloth masks. And we're going to try to do another one on the weekend so that we have the ability for more people to show up. That will be sometime in September. And so we do have some updates from the BCC meeting, and let me go through that. So we do have some raised crosswalks that are going to go into District 5, and that's in order to help with those who are walking to school. And it's going to be ADA accessible. And we had an update from Visit Orlando. We have this update annually, and this one was very interesting because of the pandemic and everything that's going on. And we are still very about, I think it was overnight, somewhere between 90% and 95% loss of our international flights. And we were at that with our domestic flights as well, but it's increased about 20%. And so with domestic flights, they did mention that's for a few reasons, that we don't have international, but we have domestic, is because people are not able to leave the country because of restrictions in other countries and restrictions for us as well from being able to leave. So those are some reasons of why our international travel is very low. They did say that about 90% of the tourists that do come to our Orange County are domestic anyway, which was good to hear. But we're looking to see how things improve. Definitely, they said that it'll be a while before our hospitality industry comes back to what was before. And I did make some points that until we get a vaccine, we're not going to see everything go back to 100% yet until we have a working vaccine. And until then, we're going to have a lot of employees or workers that don't have jobs because those jobs right now they're at half capacity because of the safety standards. So that's basically half the jobs in our hospitality industry are lost. So as a county, we're going to have to focus on retraining that workforce for other jobs. And I did mention that to the county as well. And I would like to see some data from the county on what jobs are available in this COVID-19 economy and what skills do we need to be able to train people for in order to be able to move in from the hospitality industry into new and different types of jobs. And we also had an update on the CARES Act. And I don't, if you're following the BCC meetings, I did bring up to the board about researching of the possibility of a resolution to the governor to ask him to put a stay on the requirement to put deposits into the court registry in order to have your day in court for the eviction process. And so out of that, the mayor asked staff to go and research the eviction process to see what we can do. And from those efforts, we ended up with the Orange County Eviction Diversion Program, which is a great program, and it's going to help. So $20 million of our CARES Act funding, which came from that $243 million that I and other county commissioners across the nation, with the help of National Association of Counties, lobbied Congress in order to give us that money, that local government funding. Prior to us advocating for that, the Congress was only going to give money to the state. And so we advocated for that money. So now we have $243 million for local government funding, and 20 million of that we are going to use towards this eviction diversion program. And this program is going to work with the landlords and tenants in order to come to some sort of agreement. There's actually a lot of restrictions to go over, so it's too much to go over in this video. But basically, you do have to show that you can continue paying rent into the future. So the program is great. The problem with the program is it's missing a part. And that part that's missing is that, like I said, with the hospitality industry, there's a lot of jobs that people are not going to get back. If you are not able to continue paying your rent, you do not qualify for this eviction diversion program, which means you could be evicted and out on the streets. And so I talked, and this idea brought already before the county a few months ago, and I've gotten more information on it, and now other counties and states are doing it. California's doing it. Is that I brought up, for those people who do not qualify for the eviction diversion program, there's hotels that are going out of business, and we could purchase those hotels and convert them into transitional housing, and people who are getting evicted and can't stay in their homes can move into those hotels until we could get them into a permanent place. Now, I always like to think long term. So long term, once they find permanent housing, we could then rehab those hotels for permanent affordable housing units. Excuse me. So after that, we did go over the Affordable Housing Trust Fund plan, which is it's been something in the works for even before the pandemic. And one thing, through working with the National Association of Counties, National Association of Latino elected officials, I've been learning from other counties what they were doing with affordable housing. And one of the big things I saw was the county has to get involved and put their own money into affordable housing, and not continue waiting and depending on the state or the federal government for funding. And the other thing is mixed income housing, which is you have affordable housing and different income levels, and some people will be paying market rate within the same complex. That's important for many reasons, which it's too much to go into here. But so I've been pushing that, and because of pushing that, we're now getting $10 million a year from our budget into an affordable housing trust fund. And so one thing I learned from the other counties was that if you really want to make an impact, you have to put $100 million in. And so that's what we're doing. So it's a 10-year plan, $10 million each year. Let's see, we had no District 5 land use cases for Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations. We did have a land use on University Boulevard that was passed, and that was an old development that's already, so this is like a second part of this development that's been going on for many years. We did do some amending to our minority women-owned enterprise participation, because before, businesses who wanted to work with the county, they had a good faith, they just had to have good faith that they were looking for women or minority businesses in order to subcontract with. And so we changed that so that they really had to go and do a good faith effort. It was not based on they just tell us something. Now they really had to show it and prove it. So that was the amendment of that. We did have another land use case in District 5, and it's an office building. It was office, and now they want to change it to commercial, like retail storefront off of Rouse Road in University. It is on the Little Ekalakachi River. So they're not impacting the river or the wetlands, but there is a study from EPD, and I want to see that before I go and make a vote on this. So I did continue this until that study is done first. Let's see what else. And that's about it for our BCC meeting. So now I'm going to go into questions. One of the questions was, does the Orange County Board of County Commissioners have any authority as to the amount of impact fees that are charged to developers? Yes, we do. And I will say that one of the biggest ones that I've been advocating for is to increase transportation impact fees, because since the Great Recession, they gave a discount to, well, shortly afterwards, they gave a discount to developers at 56% of the transportation impact fees in order to spur development and economic growth in Orange County. Well, that happened. And then the developers came and said, well, you have an issue now with affordable housing. So if you want us to build affordable housing, we need to keep the impact fees low. So the board didn't increase the impact fees because they wanted to encourage more affordable housing, which never happened. So I am against discounting the transportation impact fees because it hasn't done what it was supposed to do. Development would have came back on its own without us doing that. We've seen it happen in counties and cities around us. And their excuse to keep the impact fees low for affordable housing is, and I'll be frank, BS, because we haven't seen that happen. And so we're looking at, there's already been some meetings on that, and you can go back to the BCC meeting, see some of the work sessions. But what I'm looking forward to is charging it at 100% and discounting if they really are doing certifiable affordable housing, then you get a discount on it, or waived. So that's something that we're looking at. Another question is, recently there were a couple of student housing projects near UCF open for public comment about changing the land use for the area. What is the status of those projects? So there is a project coming up for a student housing. Actually, there's a couple of them. A student housing development in the quadrangle. Now that I think of it, there's actually 3 coming up. There's one at the quadrangle. There's one at, that one is closer to Rouse Road and McCulloch. And then there's another one that's off of Alafaya in University. And then there's another one where the 408 is and 50. So there are 3 student housing projects. In light of recent problems UCF students have had with their leases due to COVID and classes being canceled, what protections could be built into the deal the county is making with the developers for these projects? I'll keep reading some of the comments on this. I'd want to see provisions in the leases with a clause about extraordinary circumstances, school closure being grounds for release from the lease, as well as restrictions on profit margins regarding rents for students to make sure these apartments are affordable without increasing student debt load if they would be normally tied to market rate. I definitely agree with what this person is saying. The problem is that these student housing complexes are private. They're not funded by the government, and they're not funded by the school, which means we don't have any control over their leases. I will do a little bit more research on what we can do, but from my experience, we can't approve or deny a development based on certain things like this, because they have rights as well, and so they're a business and they have those rights to run their business as they see fit. And when we're approving or denying land use cases, it has to be based on this Florida statutes and the code that we have in Orange County. And those aren't even, it's unconstitutional for us to try to force someone to do something that has nothing to do with that land use. I hope I'm explaining that right. But I definitely will pass this on to legal and see if there is anything we can do. I'm going to, and I know what they say about assuming, so I always like to check into things. But at this moment, I'm going to assume that this isn't something that we can do, but we would definitely check into it. At this moment, we got 9 minutes left, so I'm going to see if we could see if there's any questions. So my assistant is organizing this, and I'm going to ask her at this moment that if you type any questions into the Q&A section on this platform, that she put the questions up for me to see them in this platform. So if you have any questions, go ahead and type in your questions. Thank you so much for asking this question, but this is a county event, a county government event, and this question more has to do with campaign. Well, it's 100% campaign related, so I really can't go into that question here. So it's not that I'm trying to avoid answering the question, because I would really actually love to answer this question, but I can't, because it's campaign related, and I can't use county resources, which the county is paying for this platform. I can't use county resources for campaign reasons. Okay, so if there aren't any other questions, I will say good night for now, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions for the next one, email them in advance. And definitely tell others that I'm doing this. And I'm going to try where, technology could be a little bit funny, but there is something that I definitely want to try out for a future one, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Just gonna tease you with that.
Commissioner, I just sent you one last question that came in.
What's okay, if whoever put this question could say, what is OCP? It says, when will the BCC meet to decide about OCP funding? But I don't know what OCP is.
And then this is the same person that asked the question about the first one that you couldn't answer. I'm sending that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So for the first question, you can send that question to the campaign. So the question is, can I email this question to your office? We don't answer any campaign questions in my office either, so you would have to email the campaign. And that's contact@voteforemily.com.
PC means public schools, on the Orange County Public Schools funding.
Oh, okay. So there was a small s, so I thought it was OCP, like OCP is, so OCPS is Orange County Public Schools. So Orange County Board of County Commissioners do not decide on Orange County Public Schools funding. That is decided on the state level and with the school board. So you'd have to go to the school board on that issue. And because I don't work with that, all I know is that the state, they gather the money for all the school boards, and they send it over to the school board, and the school board decides how to spend that money. That's as far as I know about it, because I have my own job to deal with and be knowledgeable about. So reach out to your school board member, and you could ask them that question. And you should be able to go to OCPS website. I think it's ocps.net, and they have the school board information on there. Okay, so again, thank you so much. And I think we have loyal viewers who continue coming back. So thank you so much for that. I see your names there, and I really appreciate your attendance. So until next time, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep involved in your local government. It's really important. Thank you so much. Good night. Bye.